After I died, I found out I'd been nothing more than a side character in a campus romance novel. The female lead had targeted me on purpose, turning everyone around me against me, and in the end her followers shoved me under a car. I died right there on the pavement. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day before she'd first set her sights on me. Ding. Positive energy system activated. Host can alter plot points through positive actions. One good deed equals one word changed in the original text. A good deed witnessed by 20 people equals one sentence changed. A good deed that becomes globally famous strips the female lead of her protagonist halo entirely. That night I helped an elderly woman cross the street, twice, and earned the right to change a word. Original text. Emma suddenly fell to the ground. The next day, Emma suddenly fell and took flight. Everyone froze. Nobody expected a girl who got winded walking too fast to suddenly soar that high, that far, through open air. Emma's unscheduled athletic feat left the whole playground stunned into silence. Even the principal, whose back had been giving him trouble for years, straightened his spine on reflex just to track her arc through the sky. When she finally came down in a full faceplant, he snapped back to himself, half swallowing a laugh, waving frantically for students to run over. Quick, quick, someone help Emma up. This had been the exact plot beat from my past life. After her staged fall, she'd pinned it on me. One of us was a good student, freshly transferred, who'd already charmed half the school into her camp. The other was a nobody, with barely any social standing. Everyone bought her version, including my childhood friend Jake and my arranged fiancé Michael. Once she tasted how well the framing worked, she kept doing it, over and over, until eventually, the whole school had lined up against me. Back in the present, my chest was a knot of complicated feelings as I followed the crowd forward. Sure enough, despite falling from that height, Emma had only scraped her lip. The second she spotted me, she burst into sobs. "It was Sarah," she said. "Sarah tripped me." The onlookers traded glances the moment the words left her mouth. The principal couldn't help himself. "Emma, I get it. Exam stress can make a person want to try performance art, but you don't need to drag other people into it." That set Emma off shrieking. "It's her. She's the one behind this." But the cut on her lip, paired with her flailing gestures, apparently struck someone as funny, because one snort of laughter set off the whole crowd. Emma burst into humiliated tears while Jake and Michael rushed to console her, and I used the distraction to slip back into the crowd unnoticed. In my past life, I died exactly one day into this new chapter of my life. After my parents were killed in a car accident, the Johnson family took me in, owing to my mother's friendship with Mrs. Johnson. They'd treated me well, especially Michael, my arranged fiancé. We'd promised each other we'd marry after college. Then Emma transferred in, and everything unraveled. Michael confessed his feelings to her, deliberately, at my own birthday party. "I love Emma," he'd announced. "Sarah's just an orphan who latched onto our family." Emma had squeezed out a few tears in response. "Michael, I'm not worth this." "No, you are," he'd insisted. And the two of them embraced like leads in a soap opera and walked off together, leaving me standing there in front of everyone. The video of that went viral. I became a joke overnight. What followed was even worse. Emma seemed to have some kind of magic touch. Whatever she wanted, she got, including Mr. and Mrs. Johnson's blessing. At first they'd been furious with Michael, insisting he owed me an apology and would make things right, but that resolve slowly dissolved. "Sarah, you understand, feelings can't be forced. Besides, Emma's a good girl, and as the saying goes, a melon forced to ripen never turns out sweet, right?" In 6 months flat, I went from being their sweetheart to just Sarah. After stealing Michael, Emma still wasn't satisfied. She turned her attention to my childhood friend Jake next, and he too started drifting against me for her sake. Having lost my family, my fiancé, and my closest friend, I was gutted by the time graduation came, and I planned to leave that miserable place behind. On my way to the train station, someone shoved me into the path of an oncoming car. "You little flirt," someone spat. "You're not even fit to carry Emma's shoes." That was the last thing I remembered. Shaking off the memory, I looked up at a sky already darkening and bolted straight for the woods behind the school building. Helping ants move house, I thought. Ants count as small animals, right? Helping small animals should count as a good deed. The system's mechanical voice came back, sounding almost tired. Helping ants relocate does count. However, your left foot just crushed one by accident. Positive and negative, what? Cancel out. I jumped back in alarm. System has detected a second ant died under your right foot. Positive energy deducted. Punishment incoming. I remembered the punishment mechanics from every system novel I'd ever read and shuddered. "You're not going to electrocute me, are you?" "Of course not," came the reply. "We're a positive energy system." Punishment assigned. Deliver 5 straight minutes of positive affirmations to the next person you encounter. Execute immediately. Reluctantly, I stood up and scanned for my first victim. I'll go with the principal, I decided. That shouldn't be too weird. "Sarah, you've gone too far this time." I looked up mid-thought to see Jake storming toward me, furious. "Do you have any idea how hurt Emma is? She's such a fragile girl. She needs protecting. How could you deliberately trip her?" I opened my mouth in frustration. "Why does it have to be you? And why now?" Jake frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Punishment begins," I said instead. A healthy body brings vitality. A healthy mind preserves good intentions. Healthy thoughts lead to great things. Jake looked stunned. Are you saying I'm mentally unwell? Say that again. When people offer you feedback, listen calmly and take it to heart. This keeps the mind clear and moving steadily toward goodness. 5 minutes had never felt so long. I scrambled for more positive material. Doing nothing avoids mistakes, but it also guarantees you accomplish nothing. You're saying I'll never achieve anything? Jake practically roared. I ignored him and kept talking while bending down to help a student pick up a dropped book. I stepped aside to let another student through with an armful of papers. Spotting our homeroom teacher rushing toward the gate to collect a package, I called out that it might rain later and she shouldn't forget her umbrella. By the time all that was done, the 5 minutes had finally run out, and I realized a small crowd had gathered behind me. Wow, you really can't judge a book by its cover, someone said. Sarah looks so cold, but she's actually incredibly helpful. Her hands haven't stopped the whole time. And she's so quick on her feet. Did you see her leave Jake speechless? Great personality too. Didn't even get mad when Emma falsely accused her. I slipped into the classroom at that, ignoring Jake's stormy expression behind me. Congratulations, the system chimed. Good deed witnessed by 20 people. Reward. One sentence changed in the original text. Looks like I'll need to keep showing off my positive energy in crowded places, I thought. From then on, since Jake and Michael had transferred out of my class into Emma's the month before, I was grateful to have some distance. With 9 months left until graduation, I didn't have time to waste outmaneuvering them daily. My classmates, having thoroughly enjoyed the gossip, spent the next week refocused on their studies, and I finally got something like a normal life while quietly keeping up my good deeds. Just as I'd banked 2 more system rewards, a fully recovered Emma reappeared. Sarah, could you step outside for a minute? I didn't budge from my seat. Her eyes flashed with something resentful before she buried it under fresh tears. I was disoriented after the fall last time, and I mistook you for someone else. I came to apologize. You're not still upset over that little misunderstanding, are you? A single tear tracked down her pale cheek. It's such a small thing. Surely Sarah won't hold on to it. Emma didn't mean any harm. Hearing the murmurs of sympathy around me, Emma smirked to herself and started digging in her bag. I brought you something, an apology gift, she said. In my past life, this had been the moment she'd handed me a beautifully wrapped, expensive, imported strawberry cake, and I, blinded by anger and humiliation from her earlier lie, had knocked it out of her hands, playing right into her trap, and losing whatever sympathy I had left. Not this time. System, show me the original text, I thought. Emma pulled a cake from her bag and handed it to Sarah. I'm changing this one for 1 word cost, I decided. Everyone in the classroom and hallway had turned to watch by then. What they saw instead was Emma, shy and blushing, pulling a heap of dog waste out of her designer bag. Dozens of students stood frozen in place, eyes flicking between the two of us. The system's mechanical voice echoed in my head. Text modification. Successful. Initiating reality correction. Emma's hand was still buried in her tote, her expression still arranged into that delicate, tearful, peace-seeking look. This is an apology gift. Just for you, she said softly, letting her shoulders tremble from maximum sympathy. Then, her manicured fingers closed around something. Her expression didn't shift. The protagonist halo kept that gentle, pitiful smile fixed in place, even as her hand emerged, holding something that was clearly, unmistakably, a fresh pile of dog mess. She held it up with both hands like a priestess presenting an offering, eyes wide and glassy. I really hope you'll accept this, Sarah. I want us to be friends again. Dead silence fell over the corridor. The student nearest to her stepped back on instinct, nose wrinkling in disgust as the smell hit the drafty hallway. What is that? Someone whispered from the back. Is Emma handing Sarah actual feces? Emma's face went slack, her brain clearly struggling to reconcile the line she was supposed to deliver with the biohazard currently in her hands. Ah, she gasped, eyes bulging, trying to fling it away, but because the text dictated she handed it to Sarah, her body leaned forward on its own, thrusting the mess toward my face. Take it, please. Just take it, she shrieked, voice cracking with terror and confusion. I didn't step back. Instead, my expression shifted slowly, from shock to deep, sorrowful concern. Emma, I said clearly enough for the whole hallway to hear. I knew the pressure of transferring here was heavy, but I didn't realize it had gotten to you this badly. I pulled a pack of wet wipes and a small trash bag from my pocket, the kind I always carried for cleaning up after strays in the park, and held the bag open without a trace of disgust. Here, put it in here, it's fine. We all have bad days. I don't blame you for whatever this is. Ding. Act of genuine empathy and public sanitation. Witnessed by 42 people. Reward. 1 sentence change. Emma's hands shook violently as the physical grip of the rewritten plot finally let go. She dropped the mess into the bag, her face turning ashen. She stared down at her soiled hands, then up at the classmates now covering their mouths, watching her with pity, disgust, and outright bewilderment. I didn't, she stammered. This isn't what I brought. I brought a cake. I swear I brought a cake. We all saw it, Emma, a girl from the drama club said, cringing on her behalf. You literally pulled it out of your Chanel bag. Why would that even be in there? No, someone set me up, Emma insisted, jabbing a soiled finger at me. Sarah, it was you. Her tears were entirely genuine now, born purely of humiliation. Before I could respond, Michael and Jake shoved through the crowd, having heard the commotion from the next room. What's going on here? Michael demanded, glaring at me. Sarah, did you do something to Emma again? Michael. Emma wailed, throwing herself toward him. He instinctively reached to catch her, but the smell hit him like a wall the second she got close, and his feet carried him backward on their own. Emma, what is that on your hands? Jake asked, holding his collar over his nose, gone pale. She tried to give me a present, I said quietly, tying off the trash bag with a neat knot. I think Emma might be under a lot of psychological strain. She should probably see the nurse, or at least find a sink. The crowd murmured in agreement. Yeah, Sarah handled that really well, someone said. Didn't even get mad. If someone handed me that, I'd have thrown it right back. Sarah's basically a saint. Is Emma actually losing it? Jake and Michael stood frozen, clearly wanting to defend her, but the smell and the sheer reality of the moment made their usual protective posture impossible to hold. I'll walk her to the restroom, Jake finally muttered, gripping the very edge of Emma's sleeve and pulling her away as she sobbed. Michael lingered a moment longer, something confused, flickering behind his eyes, a small crack in the perfect brainwashing the protagonist halo usually maintained. Sarah, did you really not do anything? I only handed her a wipe. Michael, I said softly, meeting his eyes with calm clarity. I hope she feels better soon. Then I turned and walked back to my classroom, leaving him standing there, utterly lost. That evening, I sat at my desk in the small, quiet bedroom of the Johnson estate. It had been my sanctuary since my parents died, but over the last 6 months, as Emma's influence grew, the staff had quietly stopped cleaning it, and the heater kept accidentally breaking. In my past life, I'd cried myself to sleep in this room more nights than I could count, wondering why the family that once promised to protect me had gone so cold. Now, all I felt was a calm, clinical focus. System, I called silently. Show me my status. A translucent blue screen bloomed in front of my eyes. Positive energy system. Host, Sarah. Active mission. Accumulate 10 sentence changes to unlock full paragraph modification, or achieve one globally renowned good deed to permanently strip the female lead's halo. So the system runs on some kind of narrative conservation law, I mused. The original novel's a low-effort melodrama, and the world's internal logic bends to absorb whatever I change, no matter how absurd Emma flying through the air, handing out dog waste. The world just rationalizes it as performance art or a breakdown to keep the story moving forward. Correct, the system replied. The world's consciousness will always attempt to patch the narrative, but the more absurd the patches become, the more the other characters' faith in the female lead erodes. Their devotion is propped up by the internal consistency of her innocence. Once her actions become indefensible, the halo starts to fail. That was my leverage. Emma wasn't just a girl. She was a force of narrative gravity, propped up by authorial bias. I didn't need to beat her directly. I just needed her story to become so ridiculous that the world's own logic could no longer hold it together. The next day, the mood at school had shifted. Emma had called in sick with a sudden fever, though everyone assumed she was hiding from the fallout of the apology incident. At lunch, instead of eating alone in my usual corner, I went looking for opportunities. Excuse me, I said, approaching the cafeteria worker, Mrs. Gable, who was struggling with a heavy crate of apples. Let me help with that. Oh, thank you, dear, but it's heavy. Before she could finish, I'd already taken one side of the crate. Thanks to my daily jogging and whatever baseline conditioning the system provided, it wasn't much trouble. Ding. Helping school staff, witnessed by 12 people, positive energy accumulating. After lunch, I passed the science building and found a group of first years struggling with the high windows. I took a squeegee from one of them. I'll do the high spots, you handle the lower ones so nobody falls off a chair. Ding. Assisting underclassmen, witnessed by 18 people. By the end of the week, all these small, quiet good deeds had begun to add up. I wasn't doing them for show, exactly, though doing them in public was a deliberate strategy. Slowly, the way people saw me was shifting. I wasn't the gloomy, clingy orphan Emma had painted me as anymore. I was the quiet, unfailingly reliable girl who seemed to show up right when someone needed a hand. Friday afternoon, leaving the library, I ran into Michael, waiting by the oak tree near the gate. His expression was complicated when he saw me. Sarah, he called. I stopped, keeping a polite distance. Yes, Michael? My parents want you at dinner tonight, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. They noticed you haven't been eating with us. Mom wants to talk about the autumn gala. The autumn gala. In my past life, that had been the night my social standing was finished for good. Emma had worn a custom blue gown Mrs. Johnson had originally promised to buy me. I'd shown up in something plain and off the rack, and Emma had accidentally spilled red wine down herself and blamed me for pushing her. Michael had denounced me publicly, and Mrs. Johnson had looked at me like a stranger, saying I'd grown into someone so bitter. I see, I said evenly. I'll be there. Sarah, Michael hesitated, frowning. About Emma, she's really unwell. She's been crying in her room for days, says someone must have planted that stuff in her bag as a prank. You don't actually think she did that on purpose, do you? I don't think anything, Michael, I said, offering a small, polite smile. I hope she recovers soon. The gala's next week, and I'm sure she wants to look her best. He stared at me, clearly thrown by my lack of anger. In the past, any mention of Emma would send me into a defensive spiral that only made him like me less. Now my complete indifference landed, like a punch thrown into empty air. Right, he muttered. See you at dinner. The dining room of the Johnson estate was grand, lit by a crystal chandelier casting warm gold light across the long mahogany table. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson sat at either end, Michael and I across from each other. The air was stiff. Sarah, Mrs. Johnson began, her voice gentle but distant in a way it hadn't been 6 months ago. Michael tells me you've been very busy lately. You're barely home for dinner anymore. Yes, Annalena, I replied, using the term I'd called her since childhood. I've been volunteering and focusing on my studies. Graduation's only 9 months out, and I want my grades to hold up for a scholarship. She paused, forecovering. A scholarship? The Johnson family already agreed to cover your tuition. There's no need to worry about that. I appreciate your generosity, Annalena, I said, meeting her eyes directly. But I believe in earning my own way. And with Michael and Emma so close now, I'd rather be fully independent, so I don't complicate things for the family's public image. Mr. Johnson looked up sharply. What complications? Nothing, Dad, Michael said quickly, flushing. It's just that everyone at school knows how close Michael and Emma have gotten, I continued, tone perfectly innocent. Since Michael and I have an old family arrangement, I don't want people thinking he's breaking his word, or that Emma's coming between us. Showing that I'm independent and focused on my own future clears that right up. The table went quiet. In my past life, I'd swallowed the pain silently, letting them ease me out without ever forcing the truth into the open. This time, saying it so casually and politely laid the awkward truth bare for everyone. Mrs. Johnson's face tightened. She glanced at Michael, then at me. Sarah, we do value you, but feelings can't be forced. I completely agree, I said warmly, which is why I fully support Michael, finding his own happiness. I only wish he'd told me directly, instead of declaring it at my birthday party. But water under the bridge, right? Mr. Johnson set his fork down hard, his face darkening. Michael, is that true? You did that at her birthday party? Dad. Michael stammered, going pale. Emma was being bullied. I had to protect her. Bullied? I tilted my head. You mean when she fell and took flight across the playground? Or when she tried to apologize to me with a handful of I'm sure Michael already told you about that. Mrs. Johnson's eyes went wide. What incident? Nothing. Michael nearly shouted, chair scraping back as he stood. I'm done eating. Sarah, you've changed. You've gotten manipulative. I'm only telling the truth, Michael, I said gently, my voice carrying a perfect, sorrowful note. If the truth sounds manipulative to you, maybe it's worth asking why. Ding. Maintaining dignity while speaking truth to power, witnessed by 4 people and 3 kitchen staff listening at the door. Points accumulated. Michael stormed out. Mr. Johnson rubbed his temples, looking drained, while Mrs. Johnson watched me with something like sudden, unsettled guilt. The protagonist Halo's grip was strong, but not entirely immune to facts delivered with total composure. The days slipped by, and the night of the autumn gala arrived. The school's grand hall had been dressed up in deep blues and gold, ice sculptures slowly melting in the corners, a string quartet playing soft classical pieces. I came alone in a simple dark green velvet dress, nothing expensive, but it fit me well and suited my quieter, more composed presence. I spotted Emma the moment I walked in, fully recovered, wrapped in a stunning custom light blue gown covered in tiny crystals, looking every bit the fairy tale princess surrounded by Michael, Jake, and her usual entourage. Her eyes narrowed the second she saw me. The humiliation of the dog waste incident clearly still burned behind her sweet expression. Sarah, she called, stepping forward, voice sweet, eyes cold. You look so plain tonight. You should have told me you didn't have a dress. I could have lent you one of my old ones. Thank you, Emma, but I'd rather wear something that's actually mine, I said evenly. The students nearby started whispering. Is she starting something again? After last time, I wouldn't trust a word Emma says. But look at that dress. She really does look like the female lead. Emma smirked faintly at the compliments, then leaned close, her voice dropping to a whisper only I could catch. You think you're clever, Sarah? A few lucky tricks won't change anything. Tonight, everyone's going to know exactly what kind of thief you are. She stepped back, her face snapping into an expression of shock and hurt. Sarah, how could you say that? She gasped, loud enough to draw the crowd's attention. Here we go, I thought, pulling up the system interface. System, show me the original text for this scene. A screen appeared. Original text. Emma looked at her ruined dress in tears. Sarah, I know you wanted this dress, but how could you pour red wine all over me? Michael stepped forward, hand raised to slap Sarah, but Jake caught his arm. She's not worth it, Michael. Sarah stood in the center of the hall, drenched in wine and scorn, completely ruined. I checked my points, 4 sentence changes, 5-word changes banked. System, I thought. I want to change this sentence. Emma looked at her ruined dress in tears. Sarah, I know you wanted this dress, but how could you pour red wine all over me? Change it to what? The system asked. I smiled to myself. Change it to. Emma suddenly grabbed a bottle of hot sauce off the buffet, poured it over her own head, and danced the tango while belting out the national anthem. Processing modification. Warning, this requires 2-sentence changes and 1-word change. Proceed? Proceed. Ding. Text modified successfully, initiating reality correction. In the real world, Emma had been holding a glass of red wine, gearing up to trip and douse herself while blaming me. Instead, her eyes went wide, the glass slipping from her fingers and shattering on the floor. She spun without warning, moving with a strange, jerky urgency, sprinting toward the catering table. Emma? Michael called, baffled. Where are you going? She didn't answer, her face a mask of pure terror even as her hands moved with eerie precision. She shoved aside the chocolate fondue, grabbed an industrial-sized bottle of sriracha off the taco bar, flipped it upside down, and, with an expression of absolute horror, squeezed it hard. Splat. Bright red hot sauce rained down over her crystal-covered gown, soaked through her styled hair, dripped down her face. Oh my god, a girl screamed. But she wasn't finished. The plot modification held absolute sway. Emma snapped one arm into the air, planted the other on her hip, and began sliding across the polished floor. Oh, say, can you see? She sang, her voice a strained, terrified screech. By the dawn's early light, she spun, sauce-soaked dress flaring, splattering nearby students, grabbed a bewildered Jake by the waist, forced him into a dramatic dip, then flung him back up, all without breaking her patriotic, hot sauce-soaked performance. What so proudly we hailed, she bellowed, eyes streaming from the chilly fumes. The hall fell into stunned, paralyzed silence. The principal froze, mid-sip of champagne. The string quartet stopped, bows hovering. Is this another one of her performance pieces? A student whispered, terrified. She's singing the anthem covered in sriracha, another replied, awestruck. This is incredibly avant-garde. Michael stood frozen, mouth open wide enough for a fly to enter, watching Emma tango her way toward center stage, face bright red, chili seeds stuck to her cheeks. Emma? He whispered, trembling. The dissonance was staggering. This was his pure, elegant angel, and she currently smelled like garlic chili paste while belting out the broad stripes and bright stars. When she hit the anthem's final note, she dropped to one knee, arms flung wide for the finale. The hall held its silence for 3 full seconds. Then I started clapping. What a powerful statement on global warming and national identity, I said, my voice full of genuine appreciation. Bravo, Emma. Truly inspiring. A few confused students, caught up in my reaction, joined in, and soon a smattering of polite, deeply bewildered applause spread through the hall. Emma looked down at her ruined dress, her burning eyes, the sauce dripping off her nose, and let out a heartbroken wail before fleeing the hall, leaving a trail of red sriracha footprints behind her. Ding. High-impact dramatic performance, witnessed by 150 people. Logic Patch applied the school recognizes it as artistic expression, though deeply concerned about her mental stability. Reward, 3-sentence changes. The sriracha tango was the breaking point for Emma's social standing. No matter how hard her halo tried to make people adore her, the sheer absurdity of it was more than any human brain could rationalize. Rumors spread fast that she had serious behavioral issues, possibly from the stress of maintaining her top student image. Michael and Jake's attitude toward her shifted too. The unconditional adoration was gone, replaced by nervous glances at her hands whenever she got close, as if bracing for another biohazard or condiment bottle. Monday, while I studied in the library, Jake walked in looking exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. He sat across from me, hands clasped tight. Sarah, he said quietly, I didn't look up from my textbook. If you're here to accuse me of putting hot sauce in Emma's hands, check the security footage. She did that entirely to herself. I know, he said, voice cracking. I saw the footage. She just grabbed it and did it. The doctors think it might be sleepwalking, or some kind of episode. But Sarah, I want to talk about us. I lifted my eyes, cool and analytical. Us? There is no us, Jake. You made that choice 6 months ago, when you told me I wasn't even fit to carry Emma's shoes. He flinched, flushing with shame. I don't know why I said that. It was like I wasn't even in my own head. Since Emma showed up, everything's felt hazy. But lately, it's been clearing. I remember how we used to be. We were childhood friends. Sarah, we promised we'd always have each other's backs. You had my back, and then you stabbed it to make Emma smile. I said, my voice flat, which somehow hit harder than anger would have. The friend I knew died 6 months ago. Whoever's sitting across from me now is a stranger who dances attendance on a girl who tangos in hot sauce. Jake closed his eyes, a single tear slipping free. Sarah, please, is there any way to fix this? Live your own life, Jake, and let me live mine. Ding. Emotional liberation achieved. Target Jake has partially broken free of the protagonist halo. Reward, 1-sentence change. I checked the system screen. 6-sentence changes banked, plus word changes. I was close. I just needed one major, globally recognized event to strip Emma of her halo permanently and free everyone else from this novel's absurd constraints. The opportunity arrived sooner than expected. Every year, our school hosted the International Youth Innovation and Science Summit, a prestigious, globally broadcast event where students from around the world pitch solutions to global problems. The winner got a full scholarship to any Ivy League school and a major grant to fund their project. In my past life, Emma had stolen my research on a low-cost, solar-powered water purification system for rural communities, presented adopted it as her own, and won, cementing her reputation as a global prodigy. When I'd tried to speak up, Michael and the Johnsons had shut me down, accusing me of trying to sabotage her out of spite. My research notes were burned, and I was branded a plagiarist. This time, I was ready. I'd spent 3 months refining the device, making it cheaper, more efficient, easier to transport, and I'd already filed a patent under my own name through a small firm, paid for with money from online tutoring. The day of the summit, the school gym had been converted into an exhibition hall, dozens of booths set up, television crews broadcasting live from around the world. Emma's booth sat directly across from mine. She looked pale but determined, a desperate light in her eyes. She knew this was her last shot at reclaiming her status. "Sarah," she whispered as the judges began their rounds. "You think you can beat me? I have the Johnson family's backing. Even if your project's good, the media only cares about me." "We'll see, Emma," I said, adjusting the solar panel on my prototype. The lead judge, a renowned environmental scientist named Dr. Vance, approached her booth first, cameras following, broadcasting live to millions. "Miss Emma," he said, "please present your project." She smiled, all confidence and charm again. "Hello, respected judges. My project is a revolutionary solar-powered water filtration system designed to bring clean drinking water to millions." She launched into a presentation using my exact words, verbatim. I smiled and pulled up the system screen. System. Show me the original text for Emma's presentation. Original text. Emma presented her brilliant design with absolute confidence. The judges were deeply impressed by her intelligence and compassion, declaring her a genius. Sarah could only watch from her booth, eyes filled with helpless tears as her work was stolen right in front of her. I checked my points more than enough. System. Modify this sentence. Emma presented her brilliant design with absolute confidence. The judges were deeply impressed by her intelligence and compassion. Change it to, Emma presented her brilliant design, but when asked to demonstrate the core mechanism, she insisted on eating the entire prototype piece by piece while declaring herself the queen of the sea. Processing modification. This requires 3 sentence changes. Proceed. Proceed. Ding. Text modified successfully. Initiating global scale reality correction. Emma was mid-sentence. And by using this specific alloy, we can ensure the filter lasts 10 years without. She stopped short, hands trembling, eyes filling with sheer horror as her body, bound by the modified text, reached out and closed around the glass tube of her own prototype. "Emma." Michael frowned from the VIP section. She didn't answer. With a terrifyingly determined look, she brought the tube to her mouth and bit down. Crunch. The sound of shattering glass rang out through her broadcast microphone, carried live to millions of viewers. "Oh my God," Dr. Vance gasped, jumping back. "She's eating the glass." Emma's face went white, tears streaming as she chewed through the plastic and glass components of her own filter, swallowing with a loud, pained gulp. She then grabbed the solar panel, tore the wires loose with her teeth, and chewed on the silicone plates like they were chips. "Stop her. Someone stop her," a teacher screamed. But Emma, entirely at the mercy of the narrative, climbed onto her own display table, dress torn, mouth caked in gray filter dust. She threw her arms wide and bellowed into the cameras. "I am the queen of the sea. All your water belongs to me. Taste the power of my ocean." Then she began stuffing handfuls of activated charcoal filter powder into her mouth, coughing up a black cloud of dust. The international broadcast went wild. The live stream chat scrolled too fast to read, a blur of question marks and laughing emojis. Is this a live breakdown? The Queen of the Sea is eating her own invention. What school is this? Are the students okay? Security guards rushed the stage and tackled a screaming, charcoal-smeared Emma off the table. Michael and Mrs. Johnson, watching from the front row, looked like their souls had left their bodies. The protagonist halo was shattering. The sheer scale of this absurdity was beyond anything the narrative's internal logic could patch over. Dr. Vance, pale and visibly rattled, turned from Emma's ruined booth toward me, standing calmly beside my intact, fully functional prototype. "You," he stammered, adjusting his glasses. "Young lady, please tell me your project doesn't involve eating glass." "No, Dr. Vance," I said, offering a warm, professional smile. "My project involves clean scientific engineering. Let me show you how it actually works." I poured a bucket of muddy, contaminated water into the top of my device. Within 10 seconds, clear, purified water was dripping into the glass below. I drank it, without hesitation. "Perfectly safe, highly efficient, and costs under $5 to produce," I said. The judges stared at the device, then at me. Dr. Vance's eyes lit up with real admiration. "Incredible, simple, elegant, and genuinely practical. This is true genius." The cameras turned to me, my calm, composed expression, a stark contrast to the chaos of Emma being wheeled out on a stretcher behind me. Ding. Globally renowned good deed achieved. The female lead's protagonist halo has been permanently stripped. The world's consciousness is resetting to a logical state. The brainwashing effect on all characters has been fully dissolved. The fallout from the summit was swift. With the halo gone, everyone's judgment returned to normal. The Johnsons, Michael, and the school board finally registered the full scope of Emma's bizarre behavior and her systematic attempts to frame me. An investigation into her academic records turned up plagiarized essays and exams across the board. She was expelled and admitted to a psychiatric facility for severe delusional behavior. The Johnsons tried to make amends. One evening, Mrs. Johnson came to my room, eyes red from crying, carrying a velvet box with a diamond necklace inside. "Sarah," she whispered, voice shaking, "I don't know what came over us. We treated you so coldly. Michael was so foolish. We want to make it right. Please, let us buy your dress for graduation. Let's be a family again." I looked at her, then at the necklace glittering in the box. "Thank you, Annalena," I said, gentle but firm. "But as you once said yourself, a forced melon never turns out sweet. Whatever warmth you had for me died 6 months ago. I'm grateful for the years you took me in, but I've already accepted a full scholarship to MIT. I'm leaving for Boston next week," she gasped, hand flying to her mouth. "Boston? But your home is here." "My home was with my parents," I said softly. "Now my home is my future." I packed that night and left the room key on the desk. Walking out through the Johnson Estates gates the next morning, the sun was just rising, casting warm gold light down the path ahead. Michael stood by the gate, watching me with a mix of regret and longing so intense it was almost painful to look at. "Sarah, can we at least stay in touch?" I didn't stop. I walked past him, steps light and sure. "System," I called silently. "I'm here, host," the voice answered, no longer cold and mechanical, but almost like a quiet, supportive friend. "Any more edits to make?" "None, host," it said. "The novel has ended. You're no longer a side character in someone else's story. You're the author of your own life now." I smiled, breathing in the cool morning air. Ahead of me stretched a world of open possibility, built not on cheap tricks or rewritten lines, but on my own strength, my own choices, and a future I genuinely earned.